We live in a world that keeps telling us to be likable, to be nice, to smile a little more, to soften our edges so we're easier to digest. But I'm here to tell you something different. Stop being too friendly. Now, don't get me wrong, kindness is powerful, but there's a difference between being kind and being a doormat. There's a fine line between compassion and compromising yourself to please everyone else. Too often we say yes when we mean no. We tolerate what makes us uncomfortable just to avoid rocking the boat. We dim our light so that others can shine without feeling threatened. Why? We often confuse being kind with being endlessly accommodating, but the truth is they are not the same thing. Kindness is rooted in empathy, respect, and understanding. It's about treating others with compassion and dignity. But people-pleasing, saying yes when you want to say no, staying silent when you want to speak up, or constantly prioritizing others at the cost of your own well-being, is a behavior born out of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, or fear of not being liked. From a young age, many of us, especially women, are conditioned to believe that being nice is a virtue above all. We're taught to smile, to be polite, to not make anyone uncomfortable. And somewhere along the way, this politeness mutates into people-pleasing. We start to think that in order to be accepted or loved, we must always be agreeable. That we should never say no, never assert ourselves, and never take up too much space. But here's the hard truth. Constantly pleasing others doesn't make you kind, it makes you invisible. When you're too busy catering to everyone else, you start to lose touch with your own needs, your own goals, your own voice. You begin to suppress your own emotions, sacrificing your authenticity just to keep others happy. That's not kindness. That's self-abandonment. True kindness has boundaries. Real compassion includes yourself. When you respect yourself enough to say, this doesn't work for me, or I'm not comfortable with that, you're not being rude, you're being honest. And honesty, even when it's uncomfortable, is a deeper form of kindness than fake smiles and forced agreeability. Being too friendly often comes at a cost. You might avoid temporary conflict, but you build up long-term resentment. You say yes to things you dread, and every time you do, you chip away at your self-worth. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. And when you never speak up for yourself, when you let your boundaries blur, people start to assume that you'll always be available, always agreeable, always nice. So stop equating kindness with self-sacrifice. You can be kind and still say no. You can be respectful and still speak up. You can care about others and still prioritize your own peace. It's not your job to carry the emotional weight of everyone else's expectations. Start standing in your truth. Start giving yourself the same compassion you so freely give to others. Because the most powerful form of kindness is the one that doesn't just nurture others, it also honors you. Being kind is beautiful, but being kind to yourself, that's where the real strength lies. We all want to be accepted, it's human nature. Fitting in feels safe. But in the pursuit of belonging, many of us begin to shrink ourselves, quieting our opinions, softening our confidence, and suppressing our individuality just to avoid making others uncomfortable. We start to believe that in order to be loved, we must become smaller versions of ourselves, more agreeable, less assertive, more palatable, less bold. But the truth is, trying to fit in by shrinking who you are is the fastest way to lose yourself. When you dim your light, you rob the world of your uniqueness. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to be a copy of someone else. You were born to stand out, boldly, unapologetically, and powerfully. And yet, somewhere along the line, society teaches us that being too much is a problem. Too loud, too opinionated, too ambitious, too confident. So we start dialing ourselves down, hoping that if we just stay within the lines, we'll be accepted. But you don't need to fit into a mold that was never built for you. Your voice, your perspective, your energy, those things matter. The moment you begin to twist yourself to suit other people's comfort zones, you lose touch with your own power. And here's the thing, Your authenticity is your superpower. People might not always like it, it might challenge them, it might intimidate them. But that's okay. You weren't put on this earth to please everyone. You were put here to be real. The problem with trying to fit in is that it often requires you to betray yourself. You say yes when you mean no. You stay silent when you want to speak. You play small when you know you're capable of so much more. And over time, that self-betrayal creates a deep, quiet frustration inside you, a restlessness. Because deep down your soul knows you were meant for more. Confidence doesn't come from being liked by everyone. It comes from liking yourself enough to be who you are, even if it makes some people uncomfortable. And sometimes it will. Sometimes your light will trigger people who are still hiding in their shadows. But that's not your responsibility. Your job isn't to shrink so others feel taller. Your job is to show up fully, even if it shakes the room. You don't have to be rude or arrogant to be bold. You can lead with kindness and still stand your ground. You can be humble and still own your worth. The key is to stop asking for permission to be yourself. Stop seeking validation from people who don't even know your full story. You are not too much. You are exactly enough. So take up space. Speak with purpose. Stand tall in every room you walk into. The world doesn't need more people who blend in. It needs more people brave enough to be seen. Your time, energy, and peace are your most valuable assets. And yet, they are often the first things we give away without hesitation. We say yes to plans we don't want, we engage in conversations that drain us, and we allow people into our lives who constantly overstep our boundaries. All because we're afraid of being seen as rude, selfish, or difficult. But here's the truth. Protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's self-respect. We live in a world that glamorizes hustle, people-pleasing, and constant accessibility. We're told to always be available, to always be helpful, to answer every message, attend every event, and show up for others even when we're running on empty. Somewhere along the way, we've been made to feel guilty for prioritizing our own well-being. But the harsh reality is this. If you don't protect your energy, no one else will. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't serve you, you're saying no to something that does. You're trading your peace of mind for temporary approval. You're exhausting yourself to meet expectations that were never yours to carry. And in doing so, you slowly lose your sense of clarity and purpose. Life becomes a blur of obligations instead of a path you're consciously walking. Boundaries are not walls, they're doors with locks. You decide who has the key. You decide who gets access. And that decision doesn't require an explanation. You don't need to justify your peace. You don't have to apologize for needing space. Saying no doesn't make you cold. It makes you conscious of your capacity. We have to stop glorifying overextension. It's not noble to run on fumes. It's not admirable to pour from an empty cup. You are not a machine, and your worth is not defined by how much you can endure. True strength is knowing when to step back. It's being brave enough to say, this doesn't feel right for me, and choosing yourself without guilt. Think about how often we give the best parts of ourselves to the wrong people or the wrong priorities. Think about the mental and emotional exhaustion that comes from constantly managing other people's feelings while neglecting our own. There comes a time when you have to reclaim your space. You have to get serious about who and what deserves your energy. When you start protecting your peace, everything changes. You gain clarity. Your relationships become more genuine. Your goals become more focused. And most importantly, you begin to feel like yourself again. Not the version of you that's overextended, overcommitted, and overwhelmed, but the one who is rooted in purpose, calm, and strength. Your energy is sacred. Your time is limited. Your peace is priceless. Guard them like your life depends on it. Because in many ways, it does.